All right, so I just put a question in there so we can all practice using the chat feature. Hi, Maura.
Baby shark, baby.
Anyone else? But you gotta answer the question in the chat feature. If you wiggle your mouse over your picture, you'll see chat pop up. And let's see a few more. Let's see a few more sports teams.
Mine's in there.
Nice, Preston Reynolds, far post. Yeah, it didn't have to be soccer. Red Sox is great.
The Knicks. Wow.
Just coming on, we've put a question on the group chat for everybody to give an answer for. Even I love the porch scene. Good day for it.
You like my beard, Abby? I hate it. I thought I was going to be able to shave it this weekend, but I have another week to go.
I had to see it when I saw that note that you had.
He keeps that hat on. They made him take it off in the coaches training last night just for a minute.
Yeah.
Can't wait to shave everything. Very annoying.
Toronto Maple Leafs, all right.
Wow. Oh, that's Christian's team. I knew that, actually. What's Graham's favorite team?
Colleen, do you have a favorite sports team?
What?
I was wondering if Colleen has one.
Oh, yeah.
Graham, Pittsburgh Penguins.
If I have a what team? Sorry, I was trying
Favorite
to hold it.
sports team.
Well, Kyle's is Everton.
Okay,
That's right. Graham is the Penguins. Bruins. All right.
All right, so it's 12:03. I think we'll get started. As you can see, as I go through the presentation of what all of our return to soccer protocols are like, you can use the chat to ask questions, and Todd is going to monitor that and will interrupt me. Or you can just take your microphone off and interrupt me anytime you want, and we'll pause and answer questions as they come up. So just wanted to make sure we're all good with that. So I'm going to share my screen. And I made a little PowerPoint. For us. So ask questions anytime. I do have a part at the end where I've built in some questions. So you could also hold them to the end, or you can type them into the chat feature and Todd can help with them. We are recording this video, right, Todd?
Yes, we're recording this.
Okay, we're recording it because we wanted to be able to send it out to everybody also. So as you can see, this is phase 1 of return to play. The state and VSA are the ones that are kind of determining when we can move forward to next phases, but right now we're in our first phase for soccer. So today's agenda. Really our top priority is the safety of our players, our families, our staff. Honestly, until we can get rid of coronavirus altogether or develop a vaccine or a cure, there's no way to completely eliminate the risk of infection. And it does mean that all of us are going to have to take on some new responsibilities to participate in soccer. So in our agenda today, we're just going to talk about the responsibilities for Farpost ourselves, the families, the players, the coaches, and then we'll have time for more questions at the end. So we've developed a set of protocols. I will be emailing this out to families, 2-page document, basically listing all the things that I'm going to talk about now. But where did they come from? We developed them using information from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. Vermont Soccer Association played a big role. Some of it is stuff that we have to do based on them, their guidelines. The CDC has helped us. Our board and leadership team have been meeting regularly. We have a subcommittee just for return to play. We've listened to a webinar and found a lot of information from the Aspen Institute, and we've also sought help from local professionals in the health fields. So let's talk about FARPost's kind of protocols, what we're doing as a club to help out. The first thing is all of our coaches, all of our staff have had to do the VOSHA training that any business should be doing, just to help educate our everybody. What is coronavirus? How does it spread? What do we need to know? We didn't think that was enough, so we've mandated that all of our coaches need to participate in a Zoom training. We had our first one last night, and our next one is Sunday, where we're really specifically going over all these protocols for the coaches. We are also, we've purchased masks for all of our coaches. They will be wearing masks during practice. For players, it's up to them. They don't need to, but if they would like to, they're welcome to. We've purchased hand sanitizer for our coaches. We've developed a health screening that they need to do before every practice. And we're in the process of working with all of our coaches to develop training guidelines, like very specific, what is okay to do during practice and what is not okay to do during practice. For the different training sites, mostly the fields that we know we're allowed to use are at Dorset Park right now. So, but we're still hoping to find another. We've made lawn signs that we will put up that kind of have those health screening questions for anybody that's coming near our fields, coaches, players, parents. So we're gonna put those out. We have rented porta potties. One of the biggest things that the fields have said was they would not be able to open bathrooms, and we need bathrooms for emergencies. So we're renting porta potties with a lock that only we have the combination to. We will be responsible to clean those every hour following CDC guidelines. So we've been working hard in the last month to slowly stock up our cleaning supplies. We're going to be hiring additional staff to manage that so that we don't have our coaches having to try to worry about kids and soccer and also about cleaning a porta potty. So we feel really good about making that choice. We will be marking outside of the soccer fields. Todd is buying orange paint, and we're gonna put just little orange dots 6 feet apart everywhere. So when the kids get out of their car and they come to practice, everyone has to put their material, their individual stuff on a dot. And it's kind of forcing the social distancing to happen there. For families and players, we've developed these protocols that we're gonna go over. We've also developed a new waiver. We're pretty excited about that because it's really gonna ask every family to be very clear on understanding the new procedures before they can participate. Todd, did I see a question pop up?
We have a question. Are health screenings for both players and coaches?
Great question. I'm about to cover families are responsible for doing their own health screenings for the kids. The signs are there as a reminder, and I'm going to get into the fact that coaches, in addition, need to begin practice by actually checking in on the health of every player. So yes, in multiple formats. So here are the protocols that are in my handy dandy thing for families specifically. Basically, if you're not comfortable with your child returning to play, you don't have them play. Like, we're not holding that against anyone. We're being very understanding that these are strange and difficult times, and every family has to weigh their own safety. So it's really, the first call is up to you. You're the first step in that health screening. You have to make sure that your child has been healthy before attending training. No signs or symptoms of COVID-19 in the past 14 days, and that you haven't been exposed to someone you know is ill in the past 14 days. Traveling Right now, the current guidance is if you've left Vermont for more than a day for travel, it's not essential. You need to stay home for 14 days before you can come to practice. So that's in there as well. We are asking you to take your child's temperature before attending a training session. So before you get in that car, you've got to make sure they don't have a temperature of 100 degrees or higher. They can't come to training if they do. This is a new thing. We're really, well, it's new for some teams, maybe not new for others. We are going to start
Shelley?
really tracking. Yes, go ahead.
Another question here. Is the waiver at Far Post a Far Post only waiver, or does it also cover U.S. Youth Soccer waiver requirements?
So from Vermont Soccer and US Youth Soccer, we're not being asked to do any new waiver. This one is just for Far Post players and families. The US Youth hasn't asked for any new waiver material. That's something that we wanted to do as much just to have every family know how seriously we're taking this. So that's why we developed it ourselves. So back to the Team Snap. This is how we're going to keep track in the horrible event that someone in one of our teams does contract coronavirus. We need to be able to help the state with contact tracing. So it's going to become really important that we use this tool that every family already has, that we purchased as a club this year, Team Snap. It's also going to help coaches plan for training, knowing how many kids and exactly who is coming. We're asking families to have plenty of water and hand sanitizer for their kids to bring to practice in case we will have hand sanitizer by the porta potty as well available. But, you know, if somebody sneezes, we might ask them to go get some hand sanitizer, and we would want to not have to have the coach go and deal with that. You should have it in your own supply. We are staggering practices. So if one practice ends at 5, the next practice is not beginning until 5:15. We're really doing that to try to prevent a lot of cluster of people. And therefore, we're asking you actually not to drop your child off more than 5 minutes before practice and to pick your child up immediately after practice. There might be some specific to the field arrival departure procedures. So if we get more fields, we'll share those along the way. For parents, we're asking you not to stand out by the field. If we're going to have kids at the field and coaches, we're going to be reaching our numbers for a space quickly. And we don't want to add to that or have to be worrying that some parents are standing too close to each other and a community member drives by and it just looks like there's a lot of people there. So you could stay in your car, you could go for a walk, you could bring a blanket and go away from the field and sit and read. You don't have to leave, but you can't just stand and watch practice right around the field. It's just gonna be too closed in. And we will be using spaces around the field more than we ever have as we try to meet the needs of our own social distance requirements in training. We are asking you to make sure that all clothing is washed after every training session, that equipment like cleats and balls and shin guards are sanitized before and after trainings. If your child becomes ill, we're asking you to contact me, Shelley. The club will need to disclose your child's illness to VSA. That is something that they're saying we have to do, and before we can have a plan to return to play. So the players themselves, we're giving them some responsibilities as well. Again, we kind of talked about this. They need to know that they have to have their temperature taken and not attend a training session if they have a temperature. If they're not comfortable returning to play, they shouldn't. So that's definitely a conversation that you should have with your player. Everybody's feeling safe in different ways right now. So that's going to be up to you and your player. We're asking them to adhere to all return to play protocols like some of the ones following. We ask that they wash hands thoroughly before and after training. Great habits to get into, been shown to be just some of the best ways to prevent the spread of any illness on any day. So it's some good habits. Oh, I just touched my face while I was talking about good habits. Sorry. We're asking the player bring and use hand sanitizer to every training. Oh, in-car was a mistake. Skip that part. Bring that hand sanitizer to every training. Players need to bring their own ball. We will not be having coaches bring bags of balls that then they have to sanitize. So every person's responsible for their own equipment at every practice. At soccer camp, we'll still be giving out balls, but then they have a ball that's theirs that they're responsible for. Players, we're trying to get them to really work on their etiquette. They probably cannot use a tissue in the middle of training, but coughs and sneezes into your elbow. No spitting is kind of a new big thing that all sports teams are really becoming more aware of, from majors in baseball all the way down to your local soccer club. Players should not be touching or sharing equipment, water, snacks, or bags. We are working on plans for players to kick and pass balls with their feet only, and assuming that the risk of contact there is very low, and that if you are cleaning your socks and your shin guards between trainings and you're sanitizing your ball between trainings, that's a very low risk way to practice some soccer.
Shelley,
Go ahead, Todd.
there's a question from Karen. What's best way to sanitize their gear? Clorox wipes, or is there another suggestion?
So I plan to just use spray for the soccer ball and the shin guards, spray and paper towels, because Clorox wipes are hard to come by, but if you have the wipes, that works too. You have to let them stay wet. I think it says follow the directions right on any container that you're using to be aligned with CDC guidelines. Heat also will kill it, so there's some recommendations about putting it in the dryer. Like, we have a little insert that we can put in our dryer and put it on high heat for a half an hour. It's said to kill any germs. It's another option. But for the ball, I plan to just spray it down every practice for myself, for my son. So this is back to that part where we said we'll have little dots to help them separate. I know that it's a lot to just always remember to be 6 feet from somebody. I've been playing golf lately, which is a great sport for social distancing and just getting outside, and you do have to be thoughtful of it. And we're dealing with kids, so it's not always easy to be thoughtful. So we thought if we could just sort of help that process by spreading them out automatically when they go to get water, that will help. We're working with our coaches to even structure their practices. So often a coach will use the water break to set up the field in a new way. And now we're saying, hey, maybe you could have your field set up at the start of practice so that you can just be having a water break and keeping an eye on everybody during that water break as well. And like I said, we're having a supervisor there for camp days and for sure the first week to really help the coaches manage that as well, because we know it's kind of new for everybody. Right now, we're on no group celebrations, no high fives, hugs, handshakes. We could challenge the kids to come up with really great social distance group celebrations. So I guess it's not no group celebrations, it's no close celebrations. Soccer isn't gonna look the same in phase 1. Most of the training that they'll do will be more technical work and fitness work. The coaches were talking last night and coming up with some really creative ideas to make it competitive, like partner competitions. So it's 2 kids spaced out and they're competing against other partners. So it still brings the competitive spirit and adds a lot of fun to the practice, but keeps everybody social distanced. So in phase 1, they aren't actually playing games where they could come into contact with each other, like the actual sport of soccer. It's not happening in phase one. We're hoping with some of the governor's announcements today. Also, right now, we have all of our training set up so that it's 9 players and 1 coach in an area. And an area might be half of a field. And then off the side of the training, another coach with 9 of our players doing some of the more juggling or fitness activities, staying spaced out on the side, and then they might swap spaces and stay with the same coach. The governor just announced today that we could go to groups of 25. That doesn't mean that Far Post Soccer can go to groups of 25 yet. We still need to have that clearance from Vermont Soccer before we can make that swap. So we'll stick to our plan of keeping it small for now and hope that we can move bigger soon. So I smushed these on there. It's the entire list of everything that we went over for coaches plus more. They'll have a health screening. They have to quarantine at home if they've not been in Vermont. They've got to prioritize how the health and safety of our athletes. Oops, wrong one. As well. They need to inquire how the athletes are feeling, or if they've been exposed to a person who's ill, and they will send them home should they believe they act or look ill. So that's part of the health screening for players. You as the parent should be performing that before soccer. The coaches should begin practice with that as well. The coaches are also being asked to make sure that all the athletes have their own equipment. The coach is the only person to handle equipment. So if they're doing a speed ladder drill, and you kick the ladder, the player should not be the one that fixes that, where normally that would have been the case. Now it has to be a coach. So here's where we're doing all our training outdoors in phase one. We're promoting social distancing, no more than 9 players and 1 coach per area. South Burlington Fields is letting us define area as half of a big field and an additional side space. The masks, coaches will be wearing masks the entire time. They will need to hand sanitize. And then a couple of big ones for coaches is we're really asking them to respect players, parents, and families by accommodating those that may not yet be comfortable returning to play, or if there's a player who's coming but is wearing a mask, that's great. And we're asking our coaches to have fun and stay positive. We know that players are excited to just be together with a soccer ball and be in person. So we need our coaches to stay really positive and have fun with those. We were talking about it last night in our coach training, just how exciting it would be to be with our kids on a field. At this time, we believe June 8th, Monday, June 8th is when we can return to soccer, is when we can have our first practice. So it's been really difficult to put out a schedule and make that plan because we haven't known from our fields exactly when we could begin. We've been working out, sharing with Queen City, often at Dorset Park. Far Post has had this field and Queen City has had this field. And we've worked with Queen City, they've been really nice, and South Burlington's been really nice. Queen City's gonna move, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, all the way over to the bandstand, and that will be their whole area with a separate parking lot. And Far Post will kind of have this field plus the U10 field down below. We'll have all of that space just for Far Post in that parking lot, and we're, like I said, staggering all of our practices to try to help eliminate the cluster times at the beginning and end of practices.
I'll step in here and just talk to everyone a bit about the fields and such. Literally, we did not know exactly what fields we had available to us until really yesterday. That was the first time we actually have been told these fields are available to you. We were informed last week that UVM was closing down all of their facilities until August. So we didn't know that until like seven days ago that facility was closed to us. And that's usually been a big chunk of our training space. And then Dorset Park wasn't able to give us a clear indication of field space until yesterday. Shane from Queen City and Ren from 802 Lacrosse, I've been in contact with them on a regular basis, almost weekly, just to coordinate efforts. A few things we had to coordinate is obviously field space. If we had used our traditional spaces, then coordinating schedules and pickups, that's already hard enough within your own club. Just coordinating all these teams. If you also add in the element of other clubs and their teams, it makes it more complicated. So Shane from Queen City has been very gracious in working with us to separate the fields to various parts of the complex so that the field space is not intermingled and the pickup and drop-offs are separated. And that's the same with 802 Lacrosse. So the challenge will be is that we have 3 major sports organizations using the same complex with one road in. So we are going to have to be pretty efficient in the process of the picking up and dropping off and moving folks. So they're probably the first week will be, I'm just going to ask everyone to be very patient and very understanding. We are all working through this process the best that we can. But we will be able to accommodate all of our needs. We are working on possibly 2 other venues, that we could have access to, which would alleviate some of the, I guess you could call it congestion or parking challenges and traffic challenges. If we move an age group off-site, that would alleviate some of that congestion. So we're hoping that'll come into play. We won't know that within the next week. So that'll be something that might come along in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, and I see that we just had a question about how will we handle if a team has more than 18 players coming.
Yeah. So that's
only our oldest players, and we're scheduling knowing that those groups might need 3 spaces, not just the half a field and an additional space. They might get the backfield plus the U10 space with at least 3 different coaches running that. But that's also where it becomes very important that people fill out their team snap information, so that if we suddenly see that every single academy boy could make it, we technically have 30 something, then we know that. I forgot to say, it's written down for you, but I forgot to say in here that we're asking families to do that by 1 o'clock, so that 1 o'clock in the afternoon, not immediately, not as you're driving to training. We just need to have a little time to make any necessary arrangements, but that's definitely something that we're planning for and working on.
Yeah, Holly, that's a good question. And trust me, that's something that honestly, way back in the beginning of this whole process when we were planning out, and we had the first notion that we could have groups of 10. Originally, we thought it was groups of 10 on one field, which presents a major challenge. But for teams with, like the 2000, like Paxton's team, they have more than 18 on that team. If they all show up to practice, we have made plans for them to have either a full space or an alternate space, and multiple coaches to handle the needs there. So.
The next thing on the PowerPoint is back to questions, comments, thoughts, wonderings. So again, you can continue to use the group chat, or you can just pull your microphone off and ask out loud anything you want. Todd and I specifically have been kind of living in this return to play land for 3 weeks now, just kind of anticipating and planning ahead. And so it's not really surprising to us anymore, but when we were talking to the coaches last night, some of them were surprised that we were in that 9-to-1 ratio and no contact, and we're not playing full on soccer quite yet. We're hoping it's coming, but like we were saying last night, and I agreed, I had book club 2 nights ago, and we all brought our lawn chairs at 7:30 at night, and we spread way out in the back of a lawn. And we had done a book club previously on Zoom, and that was great. We were happy to be able to do that. But just being near each other, everyone had to bring their own chair, their own drink, their own book, and just seeing the people live was really fun for my book club. And we know that the kids are going to feel the same way, that even though there's restrictions and it's different, they're going to be really excited to be there with their teammates and their coaches.
Shelley, I had a quick question.
Absolutely, Andrew.
Not the elite camp weeks, but the plan was to replace those weeks with just camps for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still the case? And if it is, what about the registration process for that?
Yeah, Todd and I were just talking registration this morning. We think we finally finalized that, and we do have a little change to it. My email should be out by midnight tonight, because I said I would get it out by the 29th, and today's the 29th. We're still planning to have camp the week of the 15th, the week of the 22nd, and then we were hoping to do the high schoolers the week of the 8th in the evening. That's the big change, because the fields got pushed back an additional week, and we want to have team trainings that week. We're going to push the high school camp out to the week of June 29th, and it'll be full day. And for all of those camps, we're running a full day camp, which is 9 to 4. You can choose to come for a half day in the morning, half day in the afternoon, whole day. If you need to miss a day due to some prior conflict, that's fine as well. Registration is going to work like this. We're going to use Got Soccer. You're going to have to put your credit card information in, because I haven't figured out a way to work around that, but it will not charge you, and therefore you get the week free. And anybody that had already paid, that's a Far Post travel team player, I've already reimbursed them for that week of camp. And so I'm going to have that up and emailed out along with this return to play protocols by today.
Are there capacity concerns about that, or is there going to be a limit, or is it first come, first serve, or how will
Well,
that work?
we are limiting the number of people, which is why we added 2 extra weeks of camp. And we don't think we're going to run into the capacity problems with having 3 weeks of camp available to people. And also having 3 fields right in that whole part of Dorset Park. You know, normally we run camp on this one field and we pack 120 kids in there, and that's not how we're doing it this time. We have plenty of staff to spread people out. We're hoping by June 15th that we are also at the 25 person and a coach limit, that by then VSA has moved along with the state requirements to get us there. But we already had a plan in place to do it with a 1-to-9 ratio. So we know we can do it easily with a 1-to-25 ratio, and that we have 3 full fields all around Dorset Park. Well, one of them is a smaller field, but we have a lot of space around that entire end. And yeah, so we feel like it's,
We actually have this, we already have the game plan for the camps and the curriculum in place and the staff in place. And we actually have overstaffed that to accommodate any of those issues. But we still, what's really important is we do need to put a limit on it, because we got to be able to, even though it's a massive space, we still need to manage the clusters of people. And so we do need to limit it to some degree, but we really also felt it was important to have more than one opportunity to handle all the demand. I think with the high schoolers having that 1 week, you know, I think that is, we originally wanted to do it that earlier and in the evening. It's just because of the later start time, we just didn't feel like we could accommodate that early slot, and we needed to push it back a little bit. So,
Nicole, did you have a question? I saw you took your microphone off for a second.
Oh, I'm on mute. Yeah, I just did have a quick question. I know that the team that I manage, some of the families have been liaising about what week to pick to try and maximize them getting to spend some time around each other. And so if they've decided that a handful of the boys want to do a given week, should they just be encouraged to, get on it as soon as the registration goes live and go from there?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a good question because I know, like even my son, he wants to make sure that his buddies are doing, they want to do the same week, which is why I put in advance, like start chatting. And
Okay.
O6s are headed in, many of the O6s are headed into high school. If they feel comfortable training with the older boys, they could choose to do the high school camp. Or if they say, my comfort level's a little more being with a bigger group of.
Ours are 07.
Yours
not
are
06.
07. I'm just
Yeah.
for everybody.
Oh,
There
okay.
has been a couple questions about the 06s in particular.
Okay.
So
05s,
Shelley,
we
are the
also-
are
yeah.
the registration links going live with your email today?
With my email, correct.
Okay.
Yep. And Abby, I see you asked a question about high school camp in August. We are still planning to have a goalkeeper, striker keeper camp, the high school preseason camp, the first touch camp for more of our younger players. Did I miss any, Todd?
No, those are the ones that we're doing. The only thing with the high school camp is that for high schoolers, they get to do it for free.
Well, unless they do this
Unless
one.
they do
We're
it, right.
talking about also if they can't do, because we've switched the date on them at such a last minute to this now end of August, and some of our high schoolers are working. If they can't make it to this June camp for free, then they can come do the high school camp for free, so that they at least get one of those opportunities for free. And then we've also talked about just wanting to really make sure everybody knows we're trying to do the most soccer that we can do. We're still working with VSL to put together a league. Obviously, it can't run right now because we're not allowed to have contact or play games, but they're working really hard to be flexible with dates and try to give us the opportunity to play games. We haven't 100% ruled out Coastal that happens August 1st and 2nd. It's just looking harder and harder. If we don't get the quarantine limitations off of leaving, then we're not going to send teams because most people can't afford to quarantine when you come back. And we also would have to make sure VSA would have to approve us to go there, and Maine would have to be in a really good place for us to even consider it. So those are a couple other questions I know I've gotten recently.
I'll be for all the parents. Our first phase is get the kids out together again and train. That's our first priority. And if we do that really well, then and there are some easements on things, then our next phase would be more inter-squad, inter-club competitions, like friendly games between this far post team and that far post team. Whether we don't know if we're going to be able to get to 11v11, but at the very least, if they allow us to get to 4v4 or something like that, that's probably going to be our first phase. The next phase after that would be potentially scrimmaging other teams in Vermont. Gosh, if we get to that this summer, I am going to be happy. I'm going to be really, really happy. The realist in me is really trying to make sure that people understand that that's probably the extent of competition that we will have if we're lucky. But all I'm really doing right now is I'm really trying to focus on one step at a time. I just want to get those kids out there in a safe environment so they can be with their teammates and they can train. Because I think Zoom has been a good tool for us, but kids are ready to interact with their teammates. They really are. So
I was just peeking through my notes, and there was one other really important thing I forgot to mention, and that's when we start on June 8th, that first week, we still plan to only have one in-person training, and the kids will have one Zoom training. We just want to make sure we give ourselves a little space that first week to start slow, iron out any last wrinkle that we haven't anticipated, even though we feel like we have 10 pages of things to anticipate. And then probably by the second week, certainly by the third week, we'll be in 2 live trainings, just like the spring always was. But we're guessing that that will happen by the second week. But regardless, the schedule that will come out will be the same. It might be you have a live training Tuesday and a Zoom training Thursday, and the next week it's Tuesday, Thursday at the same times, but they're both live. That's what we're working on. Are there other questions? I see a couple other thank you comments. We appreciate it. We have really been trying very hard to get ourselves educated, informed, and to be as thoughtful as we can in this whole process.
I'm just going to say that for me in my position as the director of the club, one, I can't tell you how lucky we are as a club to have the board that we have. We have a remarkable board that has been unbelievably supportive and helpful through this whole process. And even to our board chair, Tim Sampson, he has been, my goodness, such a leader for us and such a sound person of advice and guidance through all of this. We are very lucky to have the board that we have. And I say to them almost every single day I work with them, thank you. But honestly, if you know a board member, it's really important for you to reach out to them and thank them because they have been remarkable in this whole process. I also Shelley has been such a leader here with this return to play. Like what she has put together is far and away above what any other club is doing. And I would say more than just in Vermont, I would say across the region. She's been on top of every little detail and has really steered us in such a great way to keep us safe and get us back out on the field. So publicly, I just wanted to thank Shelley for all of her work.
Thank you. I did see a couple other questions. Kate, when Todd sends his Friday evening email, he usually puts some video assignment and he's going to add this recording directly to that email that goes out to the entire club. So if you missed anything or you just want to watch it again because my PowerPoint was so entertaining, you can do that. Another question was, is there a practice the week of camp as well? And yes, there will be. So those could be some long days, or that might be the day that you decide, okay, my son's only going to go to the morning, take a little break, and then come back for team practice in the afternoon. It's all up to you. We didn't give out the practice times and dates today. I'm going to send out a draft of that with my email that has, it's going to be a big email. It's not 100% finalized yet because like Todd said, we just yesterday got the final answer on some of the fields. So it'll be a draft of, but it will give you at least an idea of like my son or daughter is going to have practice on this day at this time. So we'll get that out. And the trainings at Dorset Park, yes. We're working on 2 other possible locations, but we expect everything will begin at Dorset Park because they are the people that really have been able to come through for us as of right now. Making sure. I've never been so excited about porta potties in my life, by the way. Usually that's not one of the things that makes me happy, but the fact that we can offer a bathroom and we've got cleaning supplies and it'll be locked just for our kids, that makes me happy. I'm just practicing my teacher wait time here. See if there's anybody that's got one last question. Feel free to throw it up there or to ask it out loud. Either way is great. Thank you.
Shelley,
Yes, Colleen.
it's Colleen. As soon as you schedule, I'm assuming they'll all go into Team Snap, and that's how we can work our own personal schedules.
Yes. So my lovely folks like Nicole, who are team managers, are gonna work really hard at that, which is so helpful to use that part of Team Snaps.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
That's definitely going to be something we've told the coaches to try to encourage you all to really check in on whether you're coming to a certain training or not. I will be working with team managers about that, and it will be in my email as well. And
We will
then
do that.
Peter asked weeks for camp, June 15th to the 19th, June 22nd to the 26th. Those are the camps that are for kind of our U8 to or to 2006 players. And then June 29th to July 3rd is the high school camp that 06s can choose, and the rest of the older boys and girls will have that week. Yeah. Well. All right. Thank you for all joining us. Let your friends know that it's going to be live today in Todd's email. They should check it out, because it's one thing to read about it on paper and another thing to kind of hear some of it discussed and talked about, I think. So we wanted to make sure we offered this. If not, I guess that's it. So I thank you for coming. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Love seeing a couple players in there too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
With that, we'll see everyone on Monday.